Welcome to another episode of Nerds Amalgamated. I'm the DJ, and with me today I have the Professor.
Hello.
How's it going?
It was going great, up until you tried to do your whole Greatest Showman bit.
What? I love a good entrance. I like to make an entrance.
Calm down, DJ Barnum.
I would go like, and now we have the flying trapeze. And the person doing the trapeze is the Professor.
Mate, have you seen me? Do you think I have the athletic ability to do a trapeze?
Well, with the help of your smarts, you could possibly do it.
I mean, yeah, it's possible. So I don't think I'd want to do it, though. I'll stick to abseiling.
That's fair. So on to our first topic. We've got a story about industrial waste and their new superpower, petrification.
So what, do you just show it to a basilisk?
Yeah, I wish I can do that, but I can't. Although, mind you, that's a very cool superpower, though.
Yeah, so how are they petrifying this industrial waste? And are you going to pronounce the names of the places correctly? Because there's some fun stuff here.
So there was a team of geologists. So Gregory Dipple in 2019 hopped on a 119-seater charter flight to Yellowknife, Canada, and flew 280 kilometers to a place called Gakokui Diamond Mine, which is south of the Arctic Circle. Gakokui, which means the place of the big rabbits. The place of the big rabbits goes to the island of rabbits in Japan. But so the mining company over there has spent has unearthed about.
You're saying there can't be two places that have big rabbits?
Yeah, I could say that. Yeah.
Well, it's not like it's called Place of the Biggest Rabbits.
But have you seen the island of rabbits in Japan, though?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's insane. That place. The size of rabbits over there, it's insane. Like they're huge. But so at Gakokui, Dipple's team has bubbled a mix of CO2 and nitrogen gas, simulating desert exhaust through a greenish-grey slurry of crushed mine waste in water.
Sorry, what kind of exhaust?
Crushed mine waste in water.
No, what exhaust?
Simulating diesel exhaust.
Okay. I'm not sure what you said, but it sounded like desert exhaust to my ears.
Fair enough. So over 2 days, the slurry acquired a slight rusty hue, evidence of the iron was oxidizing, while the manganese and calcium was sucking up CO2 and turning into carbon-based minerals. The CO2 hungry waste from the diamond mine is an exotic deep earth rock shot up to the surface in the volcanic eruptions that bring up diamonds.
Okay, but diamonds are pretty rare. Well, I mean, they're not rare, but digging up diamonds just to stop CO2 emissions sounds a bit. Well, hopefully it would offset the CO2 emissions from the mine.
And they were saying here, so known as alkaline. They say here, by a wide array of rock and mud-like waste from mining and cement and aluminium production, coal burning, and other large-scale industrial processes share a similar affinity for the greenhouse gas. Known as alkaline solid waste, these materials have a high pH, which causes them to react to CO2, a mild acid. And unlike other schemes for drawing excess CO2 from the atmosphere, these reactive rocks can both capture the gas and store it, locked away permanently in a solid material.
That would be the great irony if coal burning waste was the solution to CO2 emissions. Presumably you wouldn't be able to capture all the CO2 that it would emit, and you'd need to pump more energy into it, probably. That would just be the great irony if, you could even get a decent percentage capture. That would just be great.
This will blow away the climate change debate by a mile.
Well, I'd love that, because then it wouldn't be a problem anymore.
What's going to be interesting though in this this would be, so would we have instead? So would this take away the production of charcoal?
No, I don't think so. Charcoal is a different thing. Charcoal is made by basically taking all the volatiles away from a organic matter. So you heat the organic matter, boil off or burn off all of the volatiles, and leave you with basically pure carbon. But
yeah, also like with it also this. What else would be interesting about this would be this could this replace nuclear energy as well? Because everyone keeps saying that nuclear is the next thing besides coal. Burning of coal, like people are saying nuclear might be the next way to go.
I don't think so, because there's a concept, peak oil, and that would also apply to coal. Basically, there's a point where you can't extract the same amount of oil or coal as you extracted the year before, because there just isn't enough of it left. And I think even with carbon capture, unless you can convert that carbon back into fuel, you're eventually going to hit peak coal, and then we're going to need to move away from coal to, say, nuclear or solar. But what it could do is you could have a massive nuclear plant produce, the theory at the moment is that using a massive nuclear plant to produce hydrocarbons would be an environmentally friendly way of getting off fossil fuels for cars.
Yeah.
So you use the nuclear energy, which is plentiful, to capture CO2 and methane and form it into a hydrocarbon, basically petrol, which you then ship out to the cities and run the vehicles in the city there.
Yeah.
I don't think this will replace nuclear. I think this will supplement it as a way to reduce carbon emissions in places where you can't have a nuclear plant or a solar plant.
See, the other interesting thing would be with this scenario is storage, because storing like industrial waste is a dangerous thing.
Yeah. And the good news is this CO2 captured industrial waste is safer.
Yeah.
Because it forms a solid compound rather than a liquid one, which you can then truck around. You don't need to build a dam, which every few years you hear about a dam collapse. And it's often an industrial dam rather than a water supply or a flood control dam or a hydro dam. It's a industrial dam storing toxic industrial waste.
Yeah. There's an interesting chart in this article where it's industrial waste can lock away 310 million tons of carbon dioxide each year. Each category of waste could mineralize, and the percentage is shown. So 16.3% is cement waste. Paper industrial waste is 11.4%. Mining waste is 13.5%. Coal combustion is 12.3%. Iron and steel slag 43.5%, and municipal solid waste is 2.4%.
Okay.
That is a lot. I was anticipating like coal combustion would be more.
Yeah, I was too.
Yeah.
I suppose a lot of the coal becomes carbon dioxide and other gases. So the amount of ash you get from burning coal is significantly less than the input. The
one thing that's there are a couple of hurdles to this, though. Like when I think about it, is the sure, we're putting the industrial waste into turning into stone, but then the problem with elements is that they have a half-life, and we don't know what that half-life might do to the environment.
Actually, it's pretty well known. So any half-life that this thing would have could be calculated by physicists. And I doubt that it would actually be a particularly dangerous level of radioactivity. So technically, every element is radioactive, but not all of it is radioactive on a scale that is dangerous. Typically, the longer the half-life, the safer you are. So some nuclear waste from power plants is half-life of a few decades. Some is half-life of thousands of years. The stuff that has a half-life of a few decades puts out more radiation but isn't always dangerous. A lot of it is fairly easy to contain. And I don't think this will be an issue because carbon has a particular fairly long half-life.
Yeah, sure. And
Depending on the exact isotope, though.
Yeah. They're saying here in this article there are major hurdles, like governments will need to offer incentives for mineralization on the massive scale needed to make a dent in the atmospheric carbon. And engineers will need to figure out how to harness the waste while preventing the release of heavy metals and radioactivity locked in the material.
Yeah, at scale, coal plants put out more radiation than nuclear plants.
Oh.
Because of the radioactive isotopes encased in the coal. They burn it and it gets released into the atmosphere. The radioactivity isn't captured, unlike with a nuclear plant. A nuclear plant, barring any accident, captures all of its waste.
Okay. The crazy part about this is the how are they gonna tax this thing? You know how when the climate debate first started, everyone was talking about, okay, we need to do a climate tax and whatnot.
So climate taxes are controversial, but the ideal use of a carbon tax is to tax output and use that money to fund capture. So by taxing the output, theoretically, the carbon emitters will reduce their emitting or look into ways to make it cleaner so that they can continue producing their product without releasing as much CO2. Then you can use the money to fund the capture to further reduce the impact. So in this case, the idea is usually that you'd have a carbon credit. So you'd have a credit for your company to release, say, a ton of CO2. And then this company that captures the CO2 could capture CO2 and sell you credits. So you would have more credits.
Mm.
Basically, they would create the carbon credits by capturing carbon and locking it up. And then companies would bid for that to be allowed to go and produce.
Yeah, they're saying here, so looming just as large a cost as the equation of how to entice companies to build a vast carbon capture industry. The US is offering a tax credit of $50 per ton of CO2 that gets stored underground. California's low carbon fuel standard, it also rewards companies that sequester carbon. And carbon taxes in places in 29 countries encourage carbon reductions, but none of those incentives rewards mineralization as a way to lower atmospheric carbon.
Yeah, so it sounds like it just hasn't been taken into account by legislation. And you just need to make an amendment to say that sequestering a ton of carbon through mineralization it's still a ton of carbon taken out of the atmosphere. So this mineralization project should get the same benefits as any other sequestration project.
Yeah. Can you imagine, this will be using rocks and in deep space travel? All right, we're gonna throw these rocks into space just to get rid of the carbon.
Yeah, well, the good news is once it's in these rocks, you don't need to get rid of it. It seems to be fairly stable. I don't think you'd need to actually get rid of it. And it would be bloody expensive. Look, going to space is hard. It costs a lot of money. Even with the new cheap launch options like SpaceX, shipping tons of carbon waste into you would need to have an escape vector. So, it's actually cheaper to launch a rocket to escape the solar system than it is to fly one into the sun.
That just reminds me of Futurama when they launched a rocket of garbage into space.
Yes, once and for all. No, wait, that's the one where they brought the iceberg to fix global warming.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's hard to get something onto an escape vector. So there's not really any point to doing it when you can have safe, efficient storage on Earth.
Yeah. And speaking of escape vectors and things on Earth, Professor, you got a story about Team Fortress 2 and how the fighting will never stop.
I mean, I'm not seeing how that segue works.
It was a very, very lame segue.
We'll get you there. So Team Fortress 2 has a pretty bad bot problem at the moment, but a group called, I think they're called LMAO bots, who are known in the past for creating hacks, have founded the Bot Extermination Service, which is basically bots who are programmed to detect hackers and hunt them down and knock them out. The idea is that these bots will harass them so much and they'll eventually leave.
So in other words, they're basically robot trolls.
Yeah, robot trolls trolling the trolls. Which, my job's done. Don't need me anymore. Yes, there's no.
I gotta admit though, this is it's a nice way to try and get rid of the competition at the same time.
Yeah. So even if LMAO bots are doing this to get rid of the competition, it's still a great story. But stopping hackers and bots is just an arms race. You'll never completely stop it unless you do something like, even if you can't even stop hackers on things like Stadia, because one of the common hacks for Overwatch a few years ago would detect what's on the screen. It didn't hook into the process. It just used screen capture to recognize, and then would recognize the characters and vector your mouse to them so that you can kill them. So you can't ever really stop hackers. All you can do is fight them, and this is fun. And now I want to know, what is the hackers' response? Are they going to go back against the bot extermination service?
Oh, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, so how are they going to get around this? I'm interested from a software engineering point of view.
At this point, like, bots are now they're like the steroids in the sports industry, as soon as the governing body catches up on them, like, oh, you're caught using steroids and stuff, the steroid market just go, we'll upgrade even much more for like 10 years above you guys, and you won't find us.
Yeah, so, and then at what point do humans just completely get out of the system? The bots take over, are we going to end up with a bot league?
Oh, no.
Yeah, instead of having human players, you write a bot. To be fair, that's already a thing, but I'd like to see it from a computer engineering point of view. I'd like to see it become a thing. There are already games that do run bot leagues. The other issue being, though, even if you manage to catch these bots and lock them down, someone will just make a new one, and hopefully your detection methods are valid for it as well. But people are still trying to sneak hacks into proper big league esports. So, can you really stop it?
Yeah, and not to mention, you might even get, like, in the middle of a match, someone would intrude into the game and switch the coding as well.
Yeah, you can't ever really stop hackers, so you can just suppress them. But
how would you suppress them though? Like, would you just jam out external communications, or?
Well, no, because these the big league people are bringing in USB sticks. They bring in USB sticks with the bots.
And I like how one of the tweets was saying, so this is a bot services, the extermination bot services. So the terminology sounds a little bit iffy.
Well, they only kill the bots, so, first they came for the bots, and I did not speak up, for I was not a bot. At what point will one of these bots become Skynet?
Oh yeah. What's going to be also interesting is what if one of the creators of these extermination bots go rogue and they sell that services to the highest bidder?
Well, yeah. If LMAO bots have got their are behind this and they have made the exterminator bots, then they are also working around the bot detection themselves to create the bot. Are they then, if Valve goes and patches TF2, they could get locked out too, which wouldn't be an issue because that would block the bad bots and the good bots.
Yeah.
If the guys working on the good bots ever had their code leaked, someone might use it for evil. I
like one of their quotes in this. Someone claiming to be behind the bot services held an AMA last month, and they said, "I get happiness out of shooting bots because guess what? I have nothing better to do. I'm not good at the game legitimately, so playing with aimbots to kill other bots without worrying about being ridiculed or kicked because I'm doing a good thing makes me happy.
Yeah, so technically, it's like grey hat hacking.
Yeah.
You're doing it for a good cause, but you're not really doing a good thing.
Oh, everyone has a price. I mean,
yeah.
Could you see these guys being hired by Steam?
No, I don't think they would. I don't know that Valve has ever been big on hiring hackers. I know Apple has been known to do it a few times. I'm pretty sure one of the main ones that they paid off was George GeoHot. I think he got bought out by Apple.
Wait a second, George Bots, did you say?
HOTZ. HOTZ.
Oh, yeah, he's known for iOS and reverse engineering PS3 and for...
Yeah, here we go. So he dropped out of the iOS hacking scene in 2010, but looks like I'm just following rumors though that because he dropped out of iOS hacking, and about that time he bought a Porsche, and the rumor was that he'd been paid off by Apple. Yeah. So the ideal case here though is that Valve fixes TF2 and it's no longer an issue.
From a game designer standpoint, do you reckon this is a good measure in game designing, or it's just I
think it's an interesting one. I don't know that it's the best way to deal with it. Like, it's the best thing these people have access to. As a game developer, I wouldn't do this, because if I have the ability to detect the bots, I would just ban them. I wouldn't make a bot to harass them, because then I'm wasting slots in my server. If I had yeah, there we go. So that article you just shared is an Apple hacker who was hired by Apple.
Yeah.
But anyway, so these bots are taking up a slot on the server, and they're harassing other bots. But if you can block them, then you're saving 2 slots on your server, the bot that you block and the bot exterminator. So I wouldn't do this as a game developer. As a fan who just wants to be able to play the game without being hacked, sure, go ahead. Be my guest. Maybe it'll get Valve to actually update TF2.
That'll be fun. Speaking of fun, I've got an interesting story. So, you ever heard of the musical artist Akon?
Not in a very long time.
Well, Akon is now going to be building a city based on Wakanda, and to do this, he's raising $6 billion.
Will he actually do it? Is this just a con? Like, this could just be a Kickstarter.
See, that's the thing though. Like, I was at two minds about this. Like, one half of me is saying he's either doing this as a publicity stunt, but on the other hand, I'm going, yeah, maybe he might be doing it as a worthy cause. I mean, in the last few years, he's been doing some interesting projects. Like, a while ago, he was talking about he gifted 2,000 acres of land. Oh, not 2,000 acres of land. He did some stuff about power, like helping by putting solar energy into it as well. Okay. Yeah, there we go. So in 2014, he started Akon Lightning Africa, which is putting solar energy projects into rural areas. And another place and so for this project, by the way, the Wakanda project, he developed his own currency called Akon.
Yeah, that's kind of tipping it towards scam for me. Like, he's done good stuff in the past, but why does he feel the need to create his own currency? So is Akon a cryptocurrency?
Yeah, it is.
There we go. I'm done. It's a scam.
It's a scam.
Yeah, it's I don't see why he needs to make a cryptocurrency. If he's building a city in Senegal, why does he need a cryptocurrency? Why not just use Senegalese currency?
I think it's the easy transferable thing. I'm assuming, but
yeah, I wonder if he's got permission from the Senegalese government.
Oh yeah, he actually has. In the website, it says that Akon's been gifted, inverted commas, 2,000 acres of land by the president of Senegal to to build the city, which is named after himself, known as Akon City.
Okay.
And this is what the website also says. So the website says this: the developed economy aims to adapt future development. The current evolution required flexible infrastructure to accommodate new real estate development, fast pace of global changes, economic project, poverty and technology race, continuously causing Senegal to face various challenges. Akon City will play a vital role in the quest for solutions to these challenges. The knowledge we generate and the professionals we train are expected and quite rightly to help the providing local solutions, as well as a critical component of human development.
Okay, I'm not a big fan of his website. It takes forever to load. and so it feels like a publicity stunt because I've looked it up, and Senegal is, in 2019, has a human development index of... where was it? 166 out of 189.
It gets even fun. It gets even better. So it is the professional individuals who develop the capacity and analytical skills that drive local economies, create new industries, support civil society. This is like a politician's speech, man.
It is.
Lead capable government.
Oh my God, Akon's gone Kanye.
And it's funny, he says that he hopes this project will provide much needed jobs for Senegalese and also serve as a home back home for Black Americans and others facing racial injustices.
Look, it's all very noble. I'm not sure I believe it, though.
And here's the thing, though, he's saying it's based off Wakanda, okay? Which is based off the Marvel comics of Black Panther. Like in Wakanda, okay? It's a highly developed country. Wakanda is the most technologically advanced nation on the planet. Wakanda is based on a pseudo-tribal society, as in the head of the state is Black Panther. In the title role, he's the king/chieftain, religious leader, and commander-in-chief. And the title is hereditary and can be challenged by any citizen to a right to ceremonial combat. And it's also ruled by a council of tribal elders. And they gather to advise the Black Panther on the future of the nation. And following a governmental reformation, the Wakandan Constitutional Council transitions to the country from an absolute monarchy to a constitutional monarchy.
So is Akon forming his own council? Like, who is going to lead this city? That's
the thing. And here's the other interesting part. It's 18 united tribes in one city.
In Wakanda.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean that's all fiction, though. Like,
yeah, it's all fiction.
They've got a place, Senegal. So most of the people who live in Akon, Wakonda.
Wakonda.
Yes, Wakonda. That's what we're calling it now.
Wakonda.
So most of the people there are probably going to be Senegalese.
That's the thing. That's going to be...
Well, what I'm worried about, though, is how well do most high-tech super cities founded in countries that aren't doing great on their human development index end up? Pyongyang?
Oh, that's the other...
Brasilia? The thing is, it's very hard to build a city and have people go there and have it become a functioning city.
And what's
even if you're a dictator.
Yeah, and even what's going to be even worse is that Wakanda is a hidden city. Like, it hides from the world. How are you going to make it hidden?
Yeah.
Like, are they going to make it like an authoritarian regime, like China,
I doubt they're actually going to hide it.
Yeah. Oh, unless they do like what China did.
I think it just means that it's going to be a big, high-tech African city. So I think you're digging into the Wakanda bit a bit too much.
Possibly, yeah. Yeah.
But he reckons that they'll have office towers to accommodate most international tech giants. How are they going to get them to move there? Why are they going to go to Wakanda instead of Silicon Valley?
Unless if the tax market is pretty cheap over there. But
yeah, so how do you get all the big companies to move to Wakanda?
Oh, that you would have to entice Google and Microsoft and all those places to say hey, this is a good place to work in. We're like California, but without the homeless crisis that's going on.
Okay, but you're still surrounded by Africa. Like, not to say anything against, like, not that I have anything against Africa, but African countries aren't known for being the most politically stable. And yes, a lot of that's because they got screwed over by colonists. But can you build a tech city in Senegal and not have bad people try to take it over, warlords and all of that? You probably could, but is it going to end up like Dubai, where you've got this massive technocratic city and then all these slums around it?
Yeah, that's gonna suck. Like here's so Akon's basically saying the project has secured 1/3 of it, but declined to publicly identify investors, signing non-disclosure agreements. After construction begins in early 2021, the first project alone could make it more than 3 years, he said. So the almost surrealist water-like designs of Akon City were inspired by traditional sculptures long made in African villages. However, the structures in Akon City will be made from metal and glass.
Yeah, I really don't think they're going to keep this sci-fi design.
Why do I get that
looks
feeling?
like some final year architecture students project.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and he's saying here, Akon City is promising a bit of everything: a seaside resort, a tech hub, recording studios, and even a zone called Senegal, where developers hope to help develop Senegal's film industry.
Yeah, and well, he reckons in the educational district, they're going to have buildings to accommodate MIT, Berkeley, Harvard, and Stanford. Why are they just American universities? Why are MIT and Berkeley going to go there? Why not Oxford?
I think, like he said,
it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, like he said, he's trying to. He's basically like I said earlier on. He's trying to make it a home back home for Black Americans and others facing racial injustices.
Yeah, so how are the Black Americans going to afford to move to Senegal? So that's the other issue.
Yeah.
Like, if he wants to make a city for the Black diaspora, cool. How are they going to get there? Like, Israel has Birthright, where they will help fund trips for young adults who live outside Israel to go on a holiday to Israel and, experience the homeland.
Yeah.
So this all feels very, I don't think it's very realistic. I would like to see it succeed because it's a really cool project, but I think there's a lot of issues, and I don't know that Akon has the political ability to handle that because he's a musician, not a politician.
Can you imagine?
Like Kanye, he probably shouldn't be president.
Can you imagine Akon going, I am now the Black Panther. And you're like, what? That's gonna be. There's a lot of questions to this, but I'm just going like it could either be a publicity stunt or it could be an actual thing. I mean, he's got a lot of funding, like $6 billion is no joke, and 1/3 of it.
Yeah, and it's great that he's investing in Senegal, hopefully, and it's not a con. But
There are too many questions.
There's a lot of questions, political will, the ability to actually construct a technocratic city in Senegal that isn't going to flop like almost every other manufactured city. That isn't going to exacerbate the class gap in Senegal.
What's going to be interesting is what narrative is Akon going to use to lure in the people? Like he's using the narrative of racial injustice around the world. I mean, sure, in this current climate, we are seeing like levels of injustice to God knows how. God knows. But the question is going to be, how long is that narrative going to last, though?
Long enough.
And what's going to be interesting is how many,
especially in America.
Oh yeah, what's going to be what the other interesting thing is? Will we let's say for example, Akon chooses his successor. Like, at what point is his successor going to go, okay, we're going to invade another country? We're going to invade another country. Are they going to?
No. Please don't turn the technocracy into a. I'm just imagining Bill Gates going all like Fury Road. Actually, no, that would be Steve Jobs.
Oh.
Steve Jobs would be the one into all of the shiny and chrome.
But can you imagine Bill Gates with Silicon Valley at the back with behind his back going like, all right, we're gonna invade DC and turn it into a dictatorship, like one billionaire to another billionaire. I mean, it'd be great though, like getting Bill Gates to rule America, but
I really don't think it would. I don't think billionaires have much in common with the sort of people they'd be ruling.
Yeah. So I think we should move on with it in the interest of time. So Professor, what game have you been playing?
I've been playing tons more Fall Guys. But I did also check out Spellbreak.
Oh yeah.
Spellbreak is it's a magic-based battle royale.
Ooh.
So you start with one particular power, say lightning or frost or fire, and you can find other powers to supplement yourself around the map. So you can then have two powers, say fire and lightning, and when you use one power and then use another, they can combine into all sorts of fun effects.
Nice. Have you tried any, Professor?
I don't often get. I've only played a few rounds, but I don't often get a good shot with where I can, the enemy sits still long enough to use both powers. One I saw was casting a toxic cloud using the toxic power, then setting it on fire and it causing an explosion, which I have used. Very effective. Guy was hiding in a house. I popped the toxic cloud in there, popped the fireball in there. He came running out screaming on fire.
So have you encountered any big flaws in this game?
Yeah, it's there's not a whole lot of variety in the loot. So traditionally, battle royale games are about a lot of looting, and I don't think there's enough variety in loot.
So what? So do you? Is it team based or is it solo battle royale?
No, it's team based.
So
trios. So I've been playing with random people.
Nice. So how many Lonely Beanies would you give this one out of?
I'll give it a 3 out of 5. It's fun to play occasionally. I don't think I'll sink any significant amount of time into it. So I don't think I'll go back to it too much. It could be fun in the right hands. It's not for me, I think. Okay.
And as for me, I have not been playing anything.
Shun.
No! My credibility ruined.
You never had any credibility to begin with.
I did. I did have credibility, but it's just been crazy with all the work with stuff going on. But I'll think of something. So moving to our shoutouts, on the 5th of September 2020, Batman the animated series celebrates its 28th birthday. So 28 years ago, Batman the animated series first premiered on television, featuring the voices of Kevin Conroy as Batman, Mark Hamill as the Joker, and a dozen others who would go on to become a fan favorite of many. In total, the series ran for 85 episodes and featured characters like Robin, Dick Grayson Robin, Batgirl, Alfred Pennyworth, Jim Gordon, Harvey Bullock, Lucius Fox, Jonah Hex, Santana, Two-Face, Penguin, Catwoman, Riddler, Poison Ivy, Scarecrow, Clayface, and the entire roster of Batman's Rogues Gallery.
And since we're talking Batman animated series, I'm going to have to link the short that they did where Mark Hamill plays every character.
I've seen that one.
Yes,
it's so good.
Might have mentioned it on the show before.
Yeah. Oh, that was funny. You've seen those series, haven't you, though?
No, I've never really been a big Batman fan.
But come on, it's Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill's a Joker.
So?
That was the one thing, like, besides Luke Skywalker, that he'll be remembered for.
Okay, and
he does a good Joker. I'll give you that.
Yeah, I'm sure he's good, but I've never felt the need to watch it.
Fair enough. On the 6th of September 2020, Star Trek are now releasing Klingon Blood Wine. So it's a year after the launch of Star Trek wines. The company behind its creation have expanded the range with Klingon Blood Wine, Cabernet Sauvignon, and the first white wine in the lineup. Announces
Cabernet.
Cabernet. So, thank you.
Cabernet. Cabernet Sauvignon.
I thought it's Sauvignon. Okay, Sauvignon.
I think it's that anyway.
Yeah. So announced in the press release in both English and Klingon.
People legitimately speak Klingon.
Can you imagine being
the linguist who raised their child speaking only Klingon?
Can you imagine being the press person and you like accidentally got the Klingon only and you're like, I can't read this. So the new bottle in the wine range, inspired by the Star Trek TV series, is the Klingon Blood Wine 2018. It'll be packaged in It's packaged in a wax-dipped bottle. It is made from Cabernet Sauvignon and produced by E2 Family Winery in Lodi, California. And for added authenticity, the creators consulted members from the KAG, which is the Klingon Assault Group, and KLI, Klingon Language Institute, which created the packaging and related brand material. It's priced at $50 per bottle, and it will be available for shipping on the 17th of September, which is the Klingon Day of Honor. And as an Easter egg for fans, the blood wine will feature 4 separate unique corks with Klingon proverbs. It's like watching a special fortune cookie. Can you imagine just like opening up a blood wine bottle and you're like, today you will die a great death.
Oh, that was Klingon. Cool. Go ahead.
On the set, would you try it though?
If it came across my table, I would. I wouldn't go out and buy it. Not a big wine drinker, but you know,
$50 a bottle though, like you in US.
Yeah, it's up there. Like you can usually get some pretty decent cheap wine in Australia. So $50 a bottle is pretty up there.
So on the 7th of September 2020, white southern right whale calves were reportedly sighted off WA's south coast. So scientists on the hunt for the white whale calf of WA South Coast believe they may have found not one, but 2 examples of rare mammals. So on Saturday, a white calf was reportedly spotted by whale watchers in Chinese Beach, about 70 kilometers east of Albany. And on the same day, UWA researchers saw another white whale calf in King George Sound, suggesting that there are at least 2 of the rare mammals. So the calves were actually juvenile southern right whales that are white in color. The phenomenon is known as gray morphism and is thought to affect just 5% of calves. Most turn dark by the time they become adults. Despite the quiet season, a study by Curtin University has revealed that the species is slowly bouncing back after being hunted to the brink of extinction until the 1970s.
Yeah, so the right whale was called that because it was so good for hunting.
So on to our remembrances. On the 7th of September 1601, John Shakespeare, an English businessman in Stratford-upon-Avon, and the father of William Shakespeare. He was a glover, a wittor by trade. He was elected to several municipal offices, serving as an alderman and culminating in the terms of a bailiff, the chief magistrate of the town council, and mayor of Stratford in 1568. Before he fell on hard times for unknown reasons, his fortunes were later revived as he was granted a coat of arms 5 years before his death, probably at the instigation and the expense of his son, the actor and playwright. He died at the age of 70 in Stratford-upon-Avon. Oh, and an interesting fact, he also worked as a taster as well.
As in the person who would test to make sure the king's meal wasn't poisoned?
I think so. Like,
you'd want it to be a pretty quick-acting poison. Because, you wouldn't want to sit around waiting for your meal to get cold.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. So it's in 1556. So Shakespeare was elected Borough Ale Tester, the first of several key municipal positions he would hold in Stratford. In that position, he was responsible for ensuring that weights and measures and prices were observed by innkeepers and publicans within the borough, and also by butchers, bakers, and town traders.
Okay, so it sounds like, ale taster makes it sound like You get to enjoy drinking beer all the time if you
That'd be a
enjoy
great
beer.
job.
Well, not for me. I don't like the taste of beer. But instead, you have to go around making sure they're using the correct measures. It's just another example of a job with a great title ruined by the actual job.
But can you imagine the results though? You get like free bread. Like, can you imagine like give us bread samples and wine samples and meat samples? You're like, wow, cool.
Does he get free samples?
I think so. Here we go.
I guess he'd have a probably a per diem from his office. Maybe he'd have to plan ahead and go and buy from a different shop every day.
Yeah. But I still
they
think
did get to taste it though. But
yeah,
the rest of the job is more boring.
That's true. On the 7th of September 1991, Edwin Madison Macmillan, American physicist and Nobel laureate, credited with being the first ever to produce transuranium element neptunium. For this, he shared the Nobel Prize in Chemistry with Glenn Seaborg in 1951. He did this as a graduate of California Institute of Technology, where he earned his doctorate from Princeton University, and joined Berkeley Radiation Laboratory, where he discovered oxygen-15 and beryllium-10. And during World War II, he worked on microwave radar at the MIT Radiation Institute and on sonar at the Navy Radio and Sound Laboratory. He led teams working on gun-type nuclear weapon design and participated in development on implosion-type nuclear weapon. He was also the co-inventor of the synchrotron with Vladimir Veskla. In 1964, Macmillan received the Golden Plate Award of the American Academy of Achievement. He died from complications from diabetes at the age of 83 in El Cerrito, California. A gun-type nuclear weapon. That would have been awesome.
Well, you're conflating a few different topics there. So a gun-type nuclear weapon isn't like point and shoot. It refers to the mechanism by which the nuclear weapon works. So a gun-type nuclear weapon works by firing a chunk of uranium down a tube. Yeah. Now, the US did work on more like what you're thinking of, more like nuclear mortars, but they've been basically discontinued. They had names like Davy Crockett, but the part of the issue is that the blast radius was a significant fraction of the effective range. So sure, you could do it, but
be aware of the damage you're gonna pose.
Yeah, it's still pretty close to where you are.
Man. On the 7th of September 2010, Barbara Holland, American author who wrote in defense of such modern-day vices as cursing, drinking, eating fatty foods, and smoking cigarettes, as well as a memoir of her time spending growing up in Chevy Chase, Maryland, near Washington, D.C. I cannot believe there's actually a place called Chevy Chase.
What did you think it was? Like
living with Chevy Chase. I grew up in Chevy Chase's house, and it was a great time. So in a riposte to Virginia Woolf's 1929 essay, A Room for One's Own, in which Woolf states that a woman must have money and a room of her own if she's to write fiction. Holland wrote, "No, Mrs. Woolf, she must have a job, Mrs. Woolf."
Ooh, burn.
Turning to essays, Holland published 3 collections: Endangered Pleasures, in defense of naps, bacons, martinis, profanity, and other indulgences; Bingo Night at the Fire Hall, The Case of Cows, Orchids, Bake Sales and Fairs, and Wasn't the Grass Greener? A Curmudgeon's Fond Memories. That's some great titles.
Yeah.
Endangered Pleasures included some of her essays supporting habits such as drinking and smoking. Holland lamented the increasing social unacceptability of common vices, saying, "We have let the new Puritans take over, spreading a layer of foreboding across the land, and denying ourselves even the most harmless delights marks a suitability somber outlook on life." Well, I bet she must be like going, "Ha! I was right. I told you. I was right. In 2007, the Washington Post published the profile of Holland after the release of her 16th book, The Joy of Drinking, where she wrote a protest to the rise of broccoli, exercise, and Starbucks. During the interview, she poured herself a glass of wine and lit a cigarette, pointing to each and saying, stuck up here on this mountain, I have only two hobbies. And she said that and said that she's been drinking half a gallon of scotch a week.
I would not want to be her liver.
I would not want to be her body. Period. I mean, damn.
It is funny, though, how, some people can smoke one cigarette and die of lung cancer, but people like her can just go nuts for their entire lives.
How did she? There must be something. There must be something in the water, man. Like
genetics, maybe.
Oh man! Like she died from lung cancer at the age of 77 in Blue Mountain, Virginia. But god damn, like half a gallon of scotch a week, man. The hangover.
Well, technically, you never have a hangover if you never stop drinking.
Oh man. I'll bet you though, whoever she bought the scotch from must be really rich as well. Like if I recall, like Kim Jong Il, like he was the biggest spender for cognac, if I recall.
Okay, probably bought the most cognac of anyone in North Korea.
That's what I've heard. So on to our famous birthdays. On the 7th of September 1707, Georges Louis Leclerc, Comte de Buffon, a French naturalist, mathematician, cosmologist, and encyclopedist. His works influenced the next two generations of naturalists, including Jean-Baptiste Lamarck and Georges Cuvier. Buffon published 36 quarto volumes of his Histoire Naturelle during his lifetimes, with additional volumes based on his notes, further research being published in the 2 decades following his death. His first mark in the mark was his mark in mathematics, and his Sur le jeu de Franck Carrière, which is in English is On the Game of Fair Square, introduced differential and integral calculus into probability theory. The problem of Buffon's needle in probability theory is named after him. Buffon's Histoire Naturelle, Générale et Particulière, was originally intended to cover all three kingdoms of nature, but the Histoire Naturelle ended up being limited to animal and mineral kingdoms, and animals covered were only birds and quadrupeds. And he also introduced a thing called Buffon's Law, which is that despite similar environments, different regions have distinct plants and animals. So this was the first principle of biogeography, and on the basis he sometimes considered a transformist and a precursor of Darwin. He also asserted that climate change may have facilitated the worldwide spread of species from their centers of origin. Buffon considered the similarities between humans and apes, but ultimately rejected the possibility of a common descent. He was born in Montbard, Burgundy. I like how he even used he even predicted climate change.
Well, it's not hard to predict. The bit about climate change that people think about these days is human-caused climate change. But the climate's changed for forever. The issue is we're now messing it up.
Yeah. So on the 7th of September 1903, Margaret Langdon, American writer best remembered for Anna and the King of Siam, her best-selling 1944 novel of the life of Anna Leah Lowens, which eventually sold over 1 million copies and was translated into more than 20 languages. In 1950, Langdon sold the musical playwrights to Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein II, who created the musical The King and I from her book. In 1972, 20th Century Fox produced a non-musical television sitcom of the CBS based on The King and I called Anna and the King, with Samantha Eggar taking the part of Anna Leah Lowens and Neil Brenner reprising his role as the king. The series was unsuccessful and cancelled after 13 episodes. Landon charged the producers with inaccurate and mutilated portrayals of a literary property and sued for copyright infringement. The suit initially failed in the late 1974, but reached up after the judgment was appealed, and the parties chose to settle out of court. And the settlement was reached in 1975, in which Landon was satisfied. She was born in Somers, Wisconsin. That was a great musical, by the way.
Yeah, never seen that one actually.
Oh, dude. Have you ever seen the one that came out around the 2000s or 1990s?
No, I don't think so.
That one was really dark as well and sad as well. On 7th of September 1914, James Alfred Van Allen, Van Allen, not Van Halen.
Very different things there, DJ.
American scientist at the University of Iowa, he was instrumental in establishing the field of magnetospheric research in space. The Van Allen radiation belts were named after him following his discovery using Geiger-Muller tube instruments on the 1958 satellites Explorer 1, Explorer 3, and Pioneer 3 using the International Geophysical Year. Van Allen led the scientific community in putting scientific research instruments on space satellites. So Van Allen was the first to devise a balloon rocket combination that lifted rockets onto balloons high above most of Earth's atmosphere before firing them even higher. The rockets were ignited after the balloons reached an altitude of 16 kilometers. As Time magazine later reported, Van Allen's rocket could not be fired in Iowa for fear that spent rockets would strike an Iowan or his house.
Oh dear.
Imagine the government being afraid of you because of that.
Yeah.
So he's released a couple of rockets, and there was one time. So on the theory that extreme cold at high altitude might have stopped the clockwork supposed to ignite the rockets, Van Allen heated cans of orange juice, snuggled them onto the third raccoon's gondola, and wrapped the whole business in insulation. The rocket fired. That must have been a great life hack.
Yes. And then, the next morning at breakfast, the chef's just like, "Hey, James, have you seen my orange juice?"
Oh, imagine telling, and they'd be like, "No,
wasn't me."
So the Van Allen belts are named after Van Allen, their discoverer. In May 4th, 1959 issue of Time magazine credits James Van Allen as the man responsible for giving US a big lead in scientific achievement. They called Van Allen a key figure in the Cold War's competition for prestige. Today he can tip back his head and look at the sky beyond its utmost blue at the world-encompassing belts of fierce radiation that bear his name. No human name has ever been given to a more majestic feature of the planet Earth. Van Allen was the principal investigator for scientific investigations on 24 Earth satellites and planetary missions. He was born in Mount Pleasant, Iowa. Even the name of his birthplace is like, yep.
Mm-hmm.
On to our events of interest. On the 7th of September 1776, according to American colonial reports, Ezra Lee makes the world's first submarine attack in the Turtle, attempting to attach a time bomb to the hull of HMAS England in New York Harbor, while no British records of this attack exist.
Yeah, there are a few of them, like the HMS Hunley, which sank 3 times, killing its crew every time.
So on September 7th, 1776, during the Revolutionary War, the American submersible craft Turtle attempts to attach a time bomb. It was the first submarine in warfare. David Bushnell, an American inventor, began building underwater mines while a student at Yale University. So he attached the time bomb. He could see the British on the deck above, but they failed to notice the strange craft below the surface. So Lee secured the bomb when his boring tools failed to penetrate a layer of iron sheathing. He retreated and the bomb exploded nearby, causing no harm to the eagle or turtle. Oh.
We screwed that up.
Yep. Despite their failures of the turtle, George Washington gave Bushnell a commission as an army engineer, and the drifting mines he constructed destroyed the British frigate Cerberus and wreaked havoc against two other British ships. After the war, he became commander of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers stationed at West Point. So you could say he nearly started becoming the first suicide bomber.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he intended to die.
Well, accidental suicide bomber.
Yeah, he could very well have been. Actually, no, suicide bombers have been a thing for a long time.
Yeah. On the 7th of September 1876 in Northfield, Minnesota, Jesse James and the James Younger gang attempt to rob the town's bank but are driven off by armed citizens. So, attempting a bold daylight robbery in Northfield, Minnesota bank, the James Younger gang suddenly first finds itself surrounded by angry townspeople and is nearly wiped out. The bandits began with a diversion. Five of the men galloped towards the center of town, hollering and shooting their pistols in the air. As the townspeople ran for cover, three of the men, wearing wide-brimmed hats and long dusters, took advantage of the distraction to walk unnoticed to the First National Bank. Brandishing pistols, one of the men ordered the bank cashier to open up the bank safe. Though the cashier recognized the famous face of Jesse James, he stalled, claiming that the safe had a time lock and could not be opened. As Jesse James considered his next move, a brave or foolish bank teller made a break for the back door. One of the robbers fired twice, hitting the teller in the shoulder, but the man managed to stumble up to safely and sound the alarm. The citizens of Northfield ran to surround the bank and mercilessly shoot down the robbers as they tried to escape. A medical student killed one of the gang members, while the owner of the Northfield hardware store mortally wounded Bill Chadwell, peppering his body with bullets from a rapid-firing Remington repeater rifle. Jesse was the last one out of the bank. After pausing briefly to shoot the uncooperative cashier in the head, Jesse leapt onto his horse and joined the rest of the survivors as they desperately fled town. Can you imagine, after that robbery, they go, "Okay, fellas, I know we've lost a couple of people, but we went out on top."
Yeah, I feel like after that much of a stuff up, you'd start rethinking your life choices.
Can you imagine the night before the robbery? They're like, okay, so who wants to go to the bank and who wants to be the guys do the distraction? So on the 7th of September 1936, the last thylacine, a carnivorous marsupial named Benjamin, dies alone in its cage at the Hobart Zoo in Tasmania. On the 7th of September 1936, only 2 months after the species was granted protected status, Benjamin, the last known thylacine, died from exposure at the Balmoral Zoo in Hobart. While it's estimated there were around 5,000 thylacines in Tasmania at the time of European settlement. However, excessive hunting combined with factors such as habitat destruction and introduced disease led to the rapid extinction of the species. The species was granted protection status just 59 days before the death of Benjamin, the last known thylacine, which died in the zoo. Further efforts to capture species for zoos and museums were unsuccessful and none were ever found. Today, controversy surrounds the thylacine as potential as a candidate for de-extinction. Various scientists have undertaken research in cloning the Tasmanian tiger and bringing the species back from the dead. Many arguments surround this process, but the reality of producing a healthy thylacine from available DNA samples remain extremely expensive and complex.
Yeah, although there's theories that they are still alive in the deep bush.
Yeah, but has anyone?
It's been a long time, so
yeah, that's the thing though. Like, it's such a it's a lot of people have claimed like, oh, I saw the thylacine, but in the end, like, nah, it's fake, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything else before we wrap up?
No, I think that's all we have for this week.
Yeah, that's all we have for this week. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We even have a Gmail address if you want to tell us anything. You can also find us on Pod Hero.
Yeah, so Pod Hero, you can support us for $5 a month with your subscription being split between the podcasts that you listen to. So if you only listen to us, we get the full $5. If you listen to some of the other That's Not Canon podcasts, then it gets equally split, or possibly split based on which one you listen to most. I'm not sure.
You can also find us on that'snotcanon.com, where we have an archive of our old episodes, and also you can find new podcasts such as the new one, History Does You, and it's basically a podcast that explores the idea that history always is relevant today, and they cover topics in current events, foreign policy, and international relations. So that's all we have for today. Stay hydrated, take care of yourselves, and hooroo!
We'll see you next time.